If you have, let's say, $2,000, but you're ready to lose, right? Find or discover the business that will require this amount of investment. Just trust in that it will work out, because if it's not, then again, you're screwed. So definitely always be mindful with your risks. With Amazon, it's a little trickier for us. I wouldn't say that this platform we've been too successful on. So we do have a good amount of sales during Mother's Day and holiday season, but throughout the year we were trying to find our niche, right? And we couldn't. And I don't want to just export or import like inexpensive products from China and just sell them on Amazon. It's not our, brand strategy. So what we do, we have a warehouse in California and we handmade the gift boxes. So some of the items are being imported from China, yes, but not 100%. And we definitely, have some handmade aspect to them. And to become compete with the other gift boxes that are on Amazon, we need to be a lot cheaper and we need to add more and more items into them. And that's just not feasible with the way we do business. So that's why for now, until we discover a new way to sell on Amazon, we'll be selling there seasonally. So that's, the business decision moving forward starting this year.
Okay, and how long have you been selling on Amazon?
It has never been our primary platform. So about a few years, right? So at first we were figuring things out, how we will sell it on Amazon, whether we would ship it from our warehouse or whether we would do an FBA. We got approached by a company who was offering their help, with setting up the initial listings. They were charging tons of money. From what I think, it was we ended up paying like $3,000 to $4,000 to start with barely no sales, and they were managing Amazon ads, and they were doing a pretty bad job. So once we fired them and started doing that ourselves, our numbers started to grow. I guess the lesson learned here is that probably anyone can do it better than some agency, right, without paying them this amount of money. But as I said, I think the customer on Amazon is very different from the customer on Etsy or the customer on Shopify. And it can be the same person, but whenever they use one of the platforms, their behavior changes, in my opinion, and they are willing to spend a different amount of money. They're for some platforms, they can only wait 2 days. For other platforms, they're willing to wait a week. For handmade gifts, they're willing to wait 2 weeks. So it really is a unique approach to every e-commerce platform, right? And Amazon, again, is not our, winning. We don't have a winning strategy there yet, but I think we're doing pretty well on Etsy and especially on Shopify.
Yeah, and not everyone I speak to has Amazon as their main bread and butter, but I think there's different situations to different product lines and products, different sellers. I think every story is interesting in its own unique way, and it's going to add value in its own unique way. So even if it's not like highly successful, I mean, not everyone I sit with is even profitable. Not everyone's profitable on Amazon, and I'm just interested in knowing what happened and what did they do and what was their shortcomings. And it makes sense. I think I looked at your listing. You're doing the gift baskets. It makes sense why it might be more difficult for you to be successful on Amazon versus Etsy and Shopify and social media. And we can talk about that. We can discuss like why a product like this is a bit more challenging on Amazon than Etsy or Shopify or social media. And how many products are you selling currently on Amazon?
Not too many, maybe 10, 12. But on other platforms, we have about anywhere from 120 to 150 products.
Oh, wow, yeah. So it's a lot of products. So one of the things that we could do, because one of the things that I mean, I would love to go over the whole thing, the startup story of your business. But one question I would like to ask you is that how much access do you have to the some of the numbers, the startup costs, the sales numbers, as we dive into it?
I'm not sure if I'm comfortable sharing sales numbers for, let's say, last year. I'm pretty satisfied with our numbers, but I'm just not, I can tell you like how, the growth pattern, right? I can tell you the startup cost, definitely, but I'm not willing to share like last year's numbers, for example, if that's okay.
Not even revenue?
Uh, I don't know.
No.
Yeah, I don't know. I just, I think I think it's good, right? So it's like well in seven figures, right? It's not close to eight figures, but it's I mean it's a lot more than $1 million and then $2 million and more than that and that and that. Yeah, but I'm just not willing to share the numbers. That's fine.
Oh wow.
Sorry.
Okay. I mean, it sounds like you're making a ton of sales. Are you comfortable with like sharing just the Amazon numbers, not the whole
Oh,
business?
the Amazon are like pretty bad, right? And it's very after all mm, mm, after all the fees, right, that they're taking from us in advertising, is very hard to calculate how profitable we are on Amazon. Um, I can access some numbers, but they won't be, too great. I mean, that's not a problem, I think. So it's just not that they will tell you a full story. Just the revenue itself is nothing, right? You need to know the cost first.
Yeah, and usually we go through that in the beginning. We figure out the cost of goods and before the sales. And if you actually fill our sheet, it will do all the math for you.
With
I speak
handmade,
to a lot of sellers who
right?
they after filling out the sheet, they're like, "Oh my God, I had no idea." It's almost like a reflection on the business. It gives a lot of people insights on how did they perform in the last year or 2 years. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Once you do it, you'll know exactly how much profit you made out of the revenue and the fees, and because it calculates everything for you, it takes away all the fees, the
Mm.
startup cost, everything. Um, so let me see. So that I mean, I'm happy to move forward, but a big part of our videos are the numbers, and we like to. We are a very transparent channel. We like to
Yeah.
just talk about it, whether it's good or bad. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm happy to share like
I
revenues.
just so if I mean as far as I understand, it's just the talk still, right? That's I mean I'm not sure which part of this would be published or not. So I did have quite a few times in during our business. We have been in business for 4.5 years. When people who would work for me would steal the entire business model, right? Some of them are great competitors of mine now. Others, failed, but just presenting maybe it would sound weird, but right, talking about the whole story and then adding the numbers saying like, hey, you can, be as successful and just earn that much, just, go and copy whatever I do. I don't feel comfortable. So I'm all down for sharing the experience, generically to the e-commerce field, but not like, hey guys, I'm doing gift baskets. My, niche is Hugi gift boxes. We're doing them here in, California. I can walk you through the warehouse, just see, just show you how everything is working. And this type of items I purchased from China, this type of items I purchased from the US. I'm using this and this and this websites to do that. And then, we do it this way. And here are my numbers. It's easy peasy, just do the same thing. So I definitely don't want to, just share the whole model, right? But I'm willing to share the experience of growth, right? Because we were, again, if it's not for published, and so I can tell you the numbers, right? And maybe we can reschedule and just maybe reorganize the talk, right? So last year we did 4.5, and we're still growing at more than 100% per year, right? And we do have a strategy, we do have a plan for, sometimes we have ups and downs, but definitely if we've been, growing from 50,000 to 4.5 in 4 years, meaning that we're doing something right, right? So, yeah. So there is definitely something that I don't want to share, but some things I can. Up to you.
Yeah. I mean, we can try. I mean, we could just move forward, see how it goes, and and if we feel like there's a story, we can move forward with the filming. And if you feel at any moment you don't want to continue, we could just cancel it too. It's fine. So let's start with from the beginning then. So what was your job prior to owning your own business?
I was doing global marketing at the medical device company, and I have recently left company February this year. So I was doing the business and a full-time job all along.
Cool. So what made you jump into this entrepreneurial journey? What inspired you?
It was an accident. So it was COVID. I just had my second child. We were working from home, and I was constantly at home with two children, working remotely full time, with my husband in the house as well. It was dark October in California, Northern California. So it was like really gloomy and dark and not sunny at all. And I felt a little depressed with, COVID being overwhelming, and two children, small children, being very overwhelming. And then just the whole, idea of working from home and trying to figure everything out all at once. And I felt anxious and depressed. And so what I started doing is I found a book about hygge. It's a Danish concept of coziness. And I started reading this book every single morning at like 5 a.m. when my little boy would wake up and would wake me up, and he wants to play. He wanted to play, I wanted to sleep. And whenever he was playing, I was just drinking coffee and reading this book. And it was about happiness and how to become happier just using very simple strategies and practices that Danes use during their long and cold winters. And they seemed very easy and straightforward, like, for example, candlelight dinners. But this is not something that I would normally do. When we started doing candlelight dinners, we started talking more with my husband. We would just discuss, how the day went. And just this simple trick, made our evenings a lot nicer and better. And we really were looking forward to those dinners. Similar idea in the morning when I would normally feel miserable at 5 a.m. in the morning because the little one wanted to play and I wanted to sleep. Here, I would imagine that this is the time for myself where I would make myself some coffee. I will, again, like light up the candle and I would read this book that made me feel, happier. And whenever I started practicing those little, things that they talked about in the book, I really felt a lot better. And then it was already October, like end of October, and I was thinking that maybe I'm not the only one who feel this way during COVID, right? Just being separated from your loved ones, not being able to go to work and talk to people, just being stressed out, concerned, and just don't know what to expect in the future. So what I wanted to do, and I decided that probably the gift boxes with those like little items would make other people feel better. And instead of going to each other for Christmas that no one could, they can send a gift box. And I also like provided like a small piece of information about hygge itself, because I wanted other people to also start practicing the similar, little things that could make their life better. And so my startup cost was $100. I went to Marshall's wearing my mask with my children, next to me, one in a sling, another one just next to me. And I was purchasing, cozy socks and candles and mugs. And then I ordered like the gift boxes themselves from Amazon. And a little bit of crinkle paper, and then I set up a few gift boxes, took a few pictures, and then I was thinking like, where could I post this? And I had some Amazon experience before that, and I decided that Amazon was not the platform. And then I remembered about Etsy, and I've never used Etsy before, but I knew that it was all about things that are handmade, right? So I just took a picture in my room of those like 5 gift boxes that I created from things that I purchased from Marshalls, and I posted them and without any expectations. And I told my husband, like, hey, I just, spent $100 in case no one needs that. And there is a high, chance that no one needs it. We will just give it to our friends for Christmas. And he's like, yeah, no problem. And then, like, I don't know, 5 days after, I got my first sale, and it was from someone from London. And when I got this first sale, I started figuring out how the platform works, right? Because I didn't know even how to print out labels. I've never, used it before. I didn't purchase any courses or something like that. It was like a purely organic, practice in the beginning, right? And then other people like there were gift boxes as well, and we started getting sales, more and more sales. And then towards the end of November, I had to hire 2 girls who were helping out with the gift boxes, and we would have like a few hundred orders per day. At that point, I started having the supplier issues because obviously you're not able to go to Marshalls and just buy 200 candles at a time. And so I was starting to, at that point, I was starting to find new suppliers, right? And yeah, it just started like that.
That's a pretty cool way to stumble on a business idea. That's really cool. So you tested the market by just putting something on Etsy, and you start seeing demand, and then you're like, okay, there's something here. Let me explore a little bit more. Let me learn how to use this a bit more, and start exploring more suppliers and finding more products, creating those gift baskets. Now, did you still assemble and package the gift baskets yourself, or did you hire a manufacturer or a co-packer to do that for you?
No, it was just me. So in the beginning, it was me, my husband, and those 2 girls that we hired, but we only hired them for the holiday season. And once the holiday season was over, that's how we started to learn that gift boxes is quite a seasonal business, right? So we do have tons of sales during the year, but the majority of the sales are coming during Christmas season and Mother's Day. And the first year, until Mother's Day, it was just me. And I was working from an extra room that we had. I made like a small studio, and I was just packing boxes. I had like small corporate clients who would order 15 boxes at a time. So I didn't plan to hire any manufacturer co-packer. It was just me.
Okay, and you're still doing it yourself, or now do you have a professional co-packer doing it?
We do it ourselves. So we do have 3 warehouses here in San Marcos, California. I'm not packing the boxes now, right? I do have full-time employees who are packing boxes, and we're being approached by various co-packers. I am thinking about a possibility of, opening another kind of a warehouse on the East Coast just to decrease the number of days our product is in transit. But we haven't jumped on that yet. And I'm a little concerned about the quality because the gift boxes, it's not just an easy thing to pack, right? Presentation is the key. And we're not only putting the items in the box, we're adding, like special handmade touches to them, like little ribbons here and there. And I do have a manager who is doing a quality check on every single box to make sure it's not only packed accurately, but it's being packed beautifully. So whenever the customer opens the box, they're impressed, right? So that's the key of, success, I think, in this business.
Yeah. And how did you learn about UPC codes, packaging design, photos? Did you do all these yourself, or did you start hiring a graphic designer to help you with getting better photos, a photographer to put better photos online, and packaging design for your boxes? Are you buying the material yourself, or are you using like a co-packer company to print out the packaging and you're using it to package your basket?
So I have some graphic designer background, and I think it helps a lot, especially with, whenever I need to do email marketing or any type of promotional advertising. It's easy for me to do it with Photoshop and Illustrator. With photography, I didn't have any experience when I started, and it just the more you practice, the better you get, and you just need to look at what everyone else is doing and see what you like and what you don't, right? And then you practice a little more. And I think iPhone is enough for most of the tasks that we as e-commerce sellers need, right? So I have some experience with professional photographers, and some of them were charging a lot more than others. Some of them are definitely more talented than others, but you need to understand. So if you have money to invest, then 100% go and do that, right? But if you don't, then iPhone and just a little practice would do the trick. And as for packaging design, so during the first 3 years, we were only using just a regular craft mailer boxes with like zero design whatsoever. And I think it was a part of a brand as well, because we were all about, like handmade, cozy, and not, mass, shiny type of product, right? So I think it worked well. But then as we grew bigger, we realized that we just want to look a little more professional. And that's how I started ordering boxes from China. But again, it's like a larger investment, right? And then you need to plan accordingly as well, because it takes time not only to print them, but to bring them from China as well. And you need to have a storage space, because boxes take space, obviously. So it's much easier to order them from, let's say, Uline, to get them delivered the next day, and then you're not spending that much and you don't need that much space, but you are compromising on, delivering your brand. You know what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah, Uline packaging is more plain than having something designed on it. And how did you grow from Etsy to other platforms? How long you been selling on Etsy?
4.5 years.
Oh, since COVID, right? And
Mm-hmm.
how did you grow from Etsy to Shopify to Amazon?
So at some point, we realized that Etsy should never be the only platform, and the more platforms we have, the easier we feel, right? So it feels like you're a little more protected, that you're not, just keeping all your eggs in one basket, right? You need to diversify. And it's the same way that I feel about businesses now, right? So the more ideas and successful businesses you have, the more protected you are as an entrepreneur. Um, so I think about a year and a half into doing the business, we decided that it's the right time to start our own website on Shopify. Um, and I think we only started Amazon about 2.5 years ago. So Amazon was the last platform that we added.
And how are your sales from each platform compared to, like, what is the most profitable platform for you? Is it still Etsy, or are you making equal revenue from Shopify and Amazon, or do you have one that's the dominant
So
market?
now it's Shopify. Yeah, now it's Shopify. I think we figured the way to bring traffic, like a quality traffic, and then to talk to them in a way that they want to repurchase. With Etsy, it still is like a tricky journey, right? Because on Shopify, it's your own website, you're building a brand. With Etsy, you're one of the sellers, and they will go to their orders and repurchase, but they're not even trying to remember your name on Etsy. That's my experience. So now the majority of our sales are coming from our own website. I would say 2/3 of sales, about 1/3 is coming from Etsy, and a little bit from Amazon. That's our last and least profitable platform. But to be completely honest, we're not spending that much effort and time to grow on Amazon yet. Because as I mentioned, we don't want to just sell pre-made in China, give boxes and compete to a $20 order value there. But I think we might like find our niche. There is some point, but it's not today.
Are you using FBA or FBM on Amazon?
We tried to use both, right? We started with FBM, but then we grew into FBA. So I think the tricky part about FBA as well is that some of the products that we put in the gift boxes are perishable, right? And some of them need to be stored in a certain way, like chocolate, for example. And these products are definitely not something that any of the sellers want to, send to Amazon. We know, for example, from experience, when we order some food products from Amazon, they come not in the right, they might come expired or broken or melted or covered in something. So definitely need to be careful with food products when you send them to FBA.
Mm, that makes sense. It might be a bit more complicated than having your own warehouse. Um, and what are some of the most like major expenses from your idea to invention? What is like the most expensive parts? And if you don't mind sharing, what is your profit margin from your cost of goods, percentage wise?
I can tell you the profit margin from revenue, so that's okay. It's
Mm-hmm.
about 20%.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is your
And
biggest expenses?
I think it's labor, right?
Labor.
So I would definitely invest a little more in warehouse as well. So I think the space that we have is not enough, right? And but this is something that can still wait. And I think the other thing that is on my mind now, and the fact that tariffs were, for Chinese products, you obviously know that very well, were increased to 54%, and now it's at 104. So I honestly don't know what to expect, right? And how much we'll need to pay, how much more we'll need to pay every time we get the delivery, because everything changes like daily, right? And when I was calculating the impact a few days ago at 54%, now we're at 104. And what happened tomorrow, I don't know. And I recently started my YouTube channel, and I recorded the video about tariffs, because at first, when I heard about that, I was terrified, right? Because you don't want to lose profits, but at the same time, you don't want to just increase your prices overnight, right? You still need to have like a strategy. And yeah, I gave it a thought. I made a plan of what we will be doing, but eventually, if nothing changes, we'll have to raise prices for at least a little bit, right? But everyone else will be doing that as well. So
Yeah, exactly. And what are some mistakes that you can share with us that maybe cost you money or time that you've learned from and you can share with other sellers?
oh yes. That's, I think, my favorite topic. I've done so many mistakes. It's just crazy. Some of them were so expensive. Some of them were more than expensive. So money wise, I think the most expensive mistake that I made cost me $100,000, but I didn't lose $100,000. But it wasn't the optimal usage of the money. Let's say that, right? And it was especially, I think, related to Amazon. I work with China a lot, and so the first mistake, you should never hurry when you do your purchasing. So sometimes I don't plan well in advance, and I'm in a hurry. Like, Mother's Day is happening in a month and a half. I need to order something now so that I have, inventory to sell. And then I just jump into buying whatever from whoever is willing to ship it as soon as possible so that I can, arrive in time. And so when it happened, it was my idea of how to become more successful on Amazon. So I figured that if we do everything here in the US, we hand pack the boxes, right? And the labor is most expensive resource that we have. It means that I need to utilize China as a packing resource, not only not only to purchase products from them, but to make them pack the boxes and ship them to us. And we will just add food items here in the US in the already assembled boxes. And it sounded like a brilliant idea to me, honestly. And then I received like 30 pallets, huge pallets filled with gift boxes. And when I started opening them, they were done so, they were so messy. Some things were broken. Everything was not to our standards. The things that they used for the gift boxes, they were bad quality. So on the picture, they would look like the things that we're using, but it was not something that we would ever purchase. They were just horrible. And I have like 20 or 30 huge pallets that I need to, deal with. And I spend 100,000 on, getting this product. And now it's taking the space, the shelf space, right, in our house, and it's just junk that I need to, sell somehow. We were able to move this product, right? We were repacking it, we were selling it like for a smaller price. We were doing like all sorts of strategies, but I definitely learned my lesson that just buying in a rush is not a good strategy. Whenever you can buy samples, work with the suppliers that you've been working before, right? And if they're saying that the timeline is not reasonable, then listen to them and probably change a strategy rather than you see what I'm trying to say. So it was one of the mistakes, but it's just money. There are other mistakes that I made. And I think that what every entrepreneur who's not working alone, who's hiring people, need to do is they need to educate themselves on the laws, employment laws, especially, taxes and things like that, accounting. So because whenever, you own a small business, you do a lot yourself and you don't know things, but it doesn't mean that if you don't know something, you're not responsible for the issues if there are issues. And there are people out there who unfortunately they want to take advantage of you because they know, employment laws, for example, and you don't. And you can easily get rude, right? So I think it's very critically important to educate yourself in this fields.
Yeah, definitely. These are all mistakes that a lot of new sellers tend to make, and we definitely try to point them out as much as possible, and teach ways to kind of prevent things from happening. And yeah, that's unfortunate. It sounds like a big purchase order that you made that had to deal with. I couldn't imagine the learning curve that had to come from that. But mistakes are lessons we learn from, so that's why we like to ask about other people's mistakes so we can learn from them. And yeah, I mean, is there anything else you would like to share before we conclude this call? Any words of encouragement? And if you want to plug your brand, your products, this could be a good time.
Okay, words of encouragement. I really think so. I was listening to Travis when I tried to start my first business, and I wanted to start an Amazon store, and I wanted to sell baby products. And it was when my first child was just born, and it was not only Travis, were other speakers, right? And I really enjoy the podcast and the experience and wisdom and encouragement and inspiration. And sometimes it's just a little more inspiration than you actually need, because it feels like, you need to do 1, 2, 3, and this will work out just well, like they tell you, because you're doing everything as they tell you, but then it's not working out, right? So I think the main point that I'm trying to make is whenever you try something, right, you first need to love the product. I know that Travis and other teachers, mentors are saying that you need to look at the margins. There are strategies how you can find a winning project, and you will just put it out there and you will just make your quick money. In my experience, you need to find something that you love, something that you're not ashamed to sell, right? Something that that brings value to other people's life. And that's how making the sale will be a lot easier, just because you love your products from the beginning. And the second piece of advice be extra, cautious and risk averse. Just know that if you have, let's say, $2,000 that you're willing to lose, I mean, not willing, but you're ready to lose, right? It's not a big amount of money for you. Then, find or discover the business that will require this amount of investment, but never jump into some business just using the whole, saving account that you have. Just trusting that it will work out, because if it's not, then again, you're screwed. So definitely always be mindful with your risks. And as we just discussed my example with $100,000 purchase, I knew that even if this, even if this would be not a great product, or if it is a mistake, it's not like tomorrow I won't have enough money to pay, my rent or to pay my employees. So I knew that if this is a mistake, I still have money for another purchase. And so that's why, even though it was a big amount of money, it was not everything that I had. And I think that's important for everyone who is just starting.
That's great. Well, thank you very much for coming on and sharing your story and your experience. And I look forward to seeing you and talking to you again.
Thank you.